That having said, I'm going to now introduce, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, Krishna ji, if you don't mind.
I don't mind at all.
All
Okay.
right, so turning it over to you. One last thing, folks, you know you are welcome, and it helps our speakers if cameras are open, meaning then they can see our smiling faces. If cameras are open, please stay very still and turn them off if you need to move around. So now I turn it over to you, Krishna.
Thank you. And Ellen emailed me this morning to say sorry she couldn't be here. And I was with them a year or two back and did a guided visualization with them and meditation for their yoga, for the yoga group that she is part of. And so that was really fun and inspiring. And so she and I have been friends for quite a while when she comes to visit, and other friends, Maya Tree and Mike and just all of you. And Victoria, I know you've been here up in our area. There's Victoria. I haven't seen you in years. There you are. I'm so glad you're there. It's wonderful. And it's wonderful to be with all of you. I want to begin by just saying that we have the topic today, what's the best way to pray? And a prayer is a constant energy. And that's what you all have. You have a constant energy of and a commitment to your group. And I love your prayer to the affirmation about the new center, because it's a way to magnetize your energy more so that more people can join. And through the pandemic and all, and through our Zoom efforts, it's been dicey at times where we get lonely or we get frustrated, or we just want to pray fervently and have things change, and they don't. Things are going on the way they are, but we're doing the best with our magnetism. And I just applaud all of you for your constant efforts to meditate together. That is perhaps the best way to increase the attunement and the magnetism that we already have, and drawing together like this. I know you already know this, that who are here, it's tangible. Zoom is virtual, but our feeling during meditation of solidarity in our Kriya lifestyle, and even if you're not a Kriyaban, if you are practicing meditation and you are just being with this group, you're offering a prayer too, to have the reality, just the reality of the highest consciousness possible, and we're giving it to the world. We have our localities for Ananda in all the places that we are in this world, and we're just beaming out light. And if you think of it, thinking of prayer as being constant, a constant offering, the highest constant offering we can give is prayer. With prayer is love and higher consciousness and light and all of the aspects of God. So I want to just say again, you're all doing that. And it's so wonderful to see and to feel your presence doing this and making everyone in the world actually stronger. That's what we're doing with all of these Zoom meetings online with Ananda, the Treasures group that I lead on Monday night, is all of it is part of just beaming that light out. So I wanted to go back to the reading just briefly to mention a couple of aspects of prayer that are mentioned. Jesus Christ and Sri Krishna both advised praying to God as personal. And I'm going to tell some stories about Swami Kriyananda. He was very personal in his relationship with Divine Mother and with God and with Master. And he taught us really through this example how to do it. How to keep our thoughts and our minds constantly focused on the divine for our self-realization. And then the Bhagavad Gita explains that man, living as he does in a human body, finds it difficult, though, to worship infinity, as though the ego and the body didn't exist. And so God's presence is personal and impersonal. And I wanted to address the impersonal way first. And this is Patanjali's Demystifying Patanjali, the Yoga Sutras, that Swamiji has added comments to that are very, very instructional. It's just amazing. And there's a chapter in here about even-mindedness, which was the affirmation for today. And in the even-mindedness, it's said that when we have a hard thing to deal with in our life, that the opposite of that could be, for instance, a loss, and your day of remembrance coming up. A loss can be it can be devastating in the moment. It can be sad thereafter. Things come up and we miss the people who have gone before us. But if we can think the opposite of that at the same time is their happiness. Those who have gone before us are incredibly happy. They don't have bodies anymore. They're gone on to higher adventures when the soul evolves. And so without a body. And so everything that we experience, the even-mindedness, is bringing us back to the positive quality of perhaps a negative quality that might bring us down in our energy. So it says your company is going bankrupt, do your best and leave the results to God. Just that's what we can do. And, let's turn it over to the divine. So this is, it's in the Patanjali, is when we meditate, we can start off with the feeling of infinity. It is hard to think of God as, well, what? Nothing? Energy? we have we have so many things to relate to on this, plane of existence we're on. But here is the reading from Patanjali. It'll help us very much to visualize infinite space all around you. So Yogananda counseled, after your last deliberate exhalation, when you're sitting very still, to gaze millions of miles through infinite space, to the left, to the right, in front of you, behind you, below you, and you would take more time to do this, I'm just mentioning all of it, and then above you. And so this is on page 129 of Patanjali, Demystifying Patanjali. And then this sentence is very, very important. It says, visualize yourself seated, bodiless, suspended in vast space, and also then, and only then, begin your meditation practices. Isn't that interesting? That if you begin your meditation practices by first visualizing that space, and the more you do that practice, the more you feel actually that you're formless, you're just changeless, you're part of God's energy, and you're beyond time and space. We're all wanting freedom. What freedom from what? Freedom from the feeling of confinement to the body and the ego. So I wanted to tell you a story. When I was meditating at an all-day meditation once here at the village, the Christmas meditation, I walked out of the meditation, as I often do. I go up to the ridge where there's a place at Ananda Village, many of you have been to, that is high above the other places. And you can see for miles in all directions, and it's a beautiful view all around. So I'm sitting there and I'm just feeling peaceful from meditating for 8 hours. And then in my mind, and this is where prayer is, it's in our consciousness. And so it's in the mind. And so I had my eyes closed for a second. And then a person who lived here for many years, Nayaswami Devarshi's wife, Maria Warner, Nayaswami Maria, came to me. And it was a voice in my head. She's in the other world. And I've always been close to her in my heart, very close to her in my heart. My husband too. My husband and Maria like to talk about the Beatles together. And she once took him for a ride. She surprised him. He went to her office about something. And she said, come with me. And they went for a ride around outside Ananda Village. She just took the car. She has a very good stereo. They just played the Beatles the whole time. So Nayaswami Maria came to me. And I was like, oh my, Maria, what's it like? What's it like where you are? And she said to me, just very clearly, it's wonderful here. I've many of the people who I knew before I came here are here, and it's a wonderful existence. And I said, but what is it like? Is it, it's like, well, is it like being far away, or like, is it like where Villa Luce is? You know, I pointed to Villa Luce, which was across the view there. And she said to me, and this is something Nayaswami Maria would say, she said, try not to think like that, meaning over there, or over there, over here, over there. And I said, oh. And so that was like, for me, a taste of what an existence without a body could be like. And she was in this wonderful world. And so it's a way to connect. This infinite feeling of God's presence is a way to connect to our greater existence, because really we're only going to get to God in God's infinity, not in God's containment within our reality, that we're doing all of our projects and we're being with our friends, which is a glorious thing to have spiritual friends. And in the Kriya talks that Swami would give, Treasures offers all of them that we have recorded of Kriya initiations for Kriya bonds only. And he would mention how important the spiritual family is, and specifically the Kriya family. And Supriya and I meet every week to join in the Kriya meditation on Wednesdays. And it's, and some of others, I'm sure you others do too. It's a wonderful way. And so even whatever type of meditation we do, if we can really connect with those other people in our mind, we will feel the power of the prayer going out for light and peace and love. And so I wanted to just read this. I transcribed it. It's very short. If you want to have any, if you want to answer a question, have a question answered, just go Google it. And then this is Swami Kriyananda, The Best Way to Pray. And I went to all of the videos that are there. And there are numerous videos about how to pray. Swamiji had on YouTube and also on ananda.org. So this is one of them. What is the best way to pray? And the best way, he said, the first thing he said is to pray, reveal thyself, that I may give thee to all. And so that's probably it is, he's saying that is the deepest prayer we can give. Because then when we have God's presence within us, that's what we do give. When all of the distractions are gone and we're really consciously not distracted. And we're thinking of God. Remember, they did the chanting of Om Guru, the chant, for 24 hours recently. And that is a wonderful way. And that gave me a lot of energy after I participated in that. We met in the Temple of Light throughout the night and the morning hours and so on, just to join in the chanting that was coming through live streaming. And so it's very, very powerful. So then Swamiji said in this question that was posed to him, but to pray with the heart is the important thing. It's a self-offering, like all the beautiful music we had today. All of it is helping us offer ourselves, offer it up, offer everything that's in us up to the divine. That's the best way to feel. And then we feel more gratitude. If we've offered something, then we feel the gratitude of being in God's presence even more. And so Swamiji said in this question time, he said, this is what I love so much from India about praying with the heart, because they talk to God as a friend. And Swamiji always did too. Those of you who have listened to the talks or knew Swamiji personally, it was God is the ultimate friend. There's a beautiful passage, a Bengali song in which Krishna is called cruel and fickle. And so meaning, well, why don't you come to me? Why? Why can't you come? And so that's a very sweet, when I was there, when we visited India in 1995, it's a long time ago, but we found that all of the people were so present and so just in themselves with their higher self. It was very sweet, and they are so kind. The people there can be so kind. It's just a beautiful thing. And Swamiji said, you wouldn't dream of hearing that where Krishna, admonishing Krishna for not coming to you in the religions who think of God pompously, like God sitting on a throne, and you hardly dare to approach him except with your eyes to the floor. And so, there's the speaking to, making God separate, which all of us can do. At times we do it, we're unconscious of it, we don't mean to, but we're pushing away by thinking the other thoughts that aren't offered prayers, if you know what I mean. So we should talk to God as you feel to in your heart, because he knows your heart anyway. And if you made a mistake, say, frankly, God, I made a mistake. But after all, if you created this delusion, then you have the power to free me from this delusion. It's not just my fault, it's your fault too. And so that's a really sweet way to think about it. It's God's fault too. He made us, and we didn't have a choice. We have to work out our karma, and here we are. And he's saying, have a confident relationship with God and trust in his presence. Supriya said that early. Really trust in God's presence. And trust that he will help you. And the song, keep calling him, whether he replies or not, keep calling him. And that's our job. That's our only job. And that's what prayer is a constant dialogue with the divine. And then as a friend, it's so much sweeter to have that as a friend, because then there's no separation. You will do anything for a friend. And it's just because God doesn't have form, that's a little trick with the mind, thinking, well, God doesn't notice. God's not seeing my, my faults or whatever. And then it's just a trick of the mind. But God's presence, if we honestly do keep calling him, we're going to get there so that we never are without that presence. And that's what deep prayer can do. And Swamiji, when he would do something big, when he would end a project, or if he was going on a trip, I'll tell two stories. One was when he was going to India, and something happened with his car, and then it just quit. And so he's planning to go to India, and he has this dilemma that he's going to be needing a car when he gets back from India. He can't go without a car. He was living up here at the village, and he was teaching all over San Francisco and all of the surrounding areas, Santa Rosa, Sacramento, and everywhere. And so he knew he had to have a car, but for him, it was an either or situation at the time. And so he had to decide about the money for going to India to buy a car or not. And so he talked to Divine Mother about this. We just had a conversation like you do with a friend, just have a conversation about it. And he's saying, listen, I want to go to India. I know you want me to go to India, but I've got to have a car. So show me what to do. And he was guided to buy a car. And so the dilemma remained. He didn't have the money to go to India then. And so he just felt he had the complete trust to say that, inside and feel and know inside, if he put the energy over here, that somehow the energy would come back to him. So a few days later in the mail, a check comes, and the check was the amount. It said, use this money in whatever way Divine Mother is guiding you to do. Isn't that interesting? He said it was very unusual at the time, many years ago, for someone, number one, to address, to have Divine Mother have used this money as she wishes you to do. And then it was enough money to get the ticket. And so there you have it. That's Swamiji in an everyday major experience to have gotten a response and an experience of God's presence through that incredible gift. And then another time he finished, I think it was 14 steps, called now the course in Raja Yoga, and he'd finished 14 steps, the writing of it. And of course, he was still teaching the whole time. And he would come home on the weekends and write and go back. I don't know the timing, if it was weekends or weekdays, but he would go back and forth. And so he'd finished that project. And he said, well, he invited Divine Mother. And that's another key thing for us to remember, is that it's our job to remember. It's our job to call on Divine Mother, call on Master, call on any of the great ones, and invite. Because if we don't invite, it's sort of like just presuming, or we can actually drive away the feeling of the divine presence if we're thinking, from the ego, I've got to do something, I've got to do something, and I've got to generate the energy to do something, so that energy changes and it goes in a favorable way. What does that do? It separates us from God. We didn't mean to do it or say that or be mean to God or exclusive to God. But it's said, all of the talks that Swamiji gives, God will wait. He'll wait for us to, invite him again. So he invited Divine Mother on this trip to Carmel, where he was going to go. And many of you know the story. It's very sweet. And he gets there, and it's the busiest month of the vacation. It's August. And he didn't think of that when he was thinking of accommodations. So he goes around looking for hotels, and all of them in his budget were full. And so he went into a hotel that was above his budget. And so he asked if they had a room, and they did. So he said, well, okay, Divine Mother, this is what you've given me. And so he pulls out his wallet to give the money for the room. And the person at the desk said, oh, don't pay. He said, and he was thinking in the back of his mind, I better pay now. I might not have the money later. And so, but he said, and then Swami asked, why shouldn't I pay? And he said, well, I just like you. And so I'll write you down as a travel agent. And he did. So his room was free. And so that was very, very sweet. And because he had invited Divine Mother, she was right there for him. And then he goes to the restaurant, and a similar thing happens. And he, because the maitre d' wouldn't let him pay for his meal. And so it's like things like that when they happen, or in our own experiences, I'm sure you've had them too, where it's a direct message that you don't need to be worried. We just don't need to be worried, because God is omnipresent, God is infinite, God is there all the time. And we think we're out of touch sometimes, or we feel a sense of lack, only because things have been taken away. And this time that we've experienced, all of us together here in the pandemic, it's just torturing in some respects to the mind to think so many people suffer, so many people are sick, so many people are struggling so much. And the government, like Supriya was saying, for us to pray for the government officials and to keep an energy going that gives positive energy and light to all these different situations. And so Dr. Peter here is the main doctor at the clinic. He started the clinic nearby Ananda Village, and he said that we've got pandemic fatigue, and so that means we're just tired. We're just worn out from the change of lifestyle, from the restrictions, having to do energy to be sure we're doing what we think we need to remain healthy and help others remain healthy, or to get better, taking care of people. And so we just have this sense of, I can't take any more. I just feel like I can't take any more, until we turn our mind and our heart back to God and realize that God is the doer. This all happened because of a divine plan of some kind. It doesn't look pretty. It doesn't feel right, most of it. It doesn't, and there have been some victories, of course, in science and in medicine and so on, but it's like the whole thing is just out of kilter. And it's only because people have gotten more and more into the mind instead of the heart and the mind, and away from feeling a closeness to the divine. And so that's what all of the light people here in this area, in this whole planet, in this whole universe, and in our different areas, we're trying to just get together with our consciousness and affirm that it's higher consciousness that's coming in. Kali Yuga consciousness looks pretty bad at this point. It's like backward thinking, selfish, you name it. It has all of those qualities that are down pulling. And so the people who are really wanting to be more, bearers of the light to come in have to be stronger, have to be more energetic. And then that's our job, to be on top of the energy that we can help, that we can be with ourselves and with our loved ones and with the people around us, and keeping the magnetism strong, keeping our spiritual friendships very alive and very vibrant. And so that all of the other experiences that are countering that at this point, see, when one yuga is going out, Kali Yuga, and Dwapara is coming in, the battle gets fierce. It gets really, really fierce. And so we're just, I mean, everybody knows that, who's looking at the situation with a bit of detachment. It's got to happen. It's got to happen, so that it can change consciousness. And it, unfortunately, changing consciousness most times has to come with a lot of pain and with a lot of turmoil, so that we can come to a new place in our consciousness. And so that's, as spiritual friends, gosh, that's the main thing we have to give, is really paying attention to our spiritual friendships and giving it energy, our friendships to our family, and feeling more, and doing everything we can to possibly help others feel more kind, help others feel more comforted, help others and ourselves feel more centered in ourselves, because all of the yuga cycles and everything is just a big progression toward higher consciousness. And it's our joy, even though we feel like, we're in a mess. We signed up for it. And we told the guru, I'll help. And we said that a long time ago. And here we are helping. So it's just such a joyous journey that way, to feel that we are helping. And also for us to be reminded that meditation, even if it's alone on our own, is a service. And it's definitely a service to the planet right now. Every meditation, whether the meditation is, if you would, call it good or bad, restless thoughts rule, or concentration and focused energy rule, it's up and down. It always will be that way on this planet. It's up and down, up and down. Where the concentration is good, the concentration leaves us. We just go off in our consciousness and feel scattered, or whatever it is. It's like just a duality. And so we have to get used to it, and we are used to it. But we're doing our very, very best to keep the energy going and keep it higher and higher and higher. And it's just such a, self-realization is not for weak people who haven't conquered their mind. It's for it's for every person. Self-realization is for every person and creature on this planet, but with the proviso that we give it all of the work we can to make it just feel, that it can be done, and have faith and trust in God that it can be done. So we're going on to our questions and answers here, and be thinking of a way maybe to share, or to ask any question you want, but also to look at our life and see those times where prayer just came in just at the right moment, or how to open the door for prayer to come in at the right moment. If we're in need right now, or if we're having a question that we just can't solve, and it's just how to continually open the door. So we'll open it up to questions in here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing what you have shared. And now, as we know this routine, you can unmute yourself, and in a moment, just speak the question. You can also put it in the chat, and I will watch it and read it for you. So let's just really engage with each other and enjoy the satsang time with Nayaswami, Krishna, and with each other.
And Supriya, I'd just like to add to that we will be coming off Facebook, so that people will feel maybe a little more comfortable about opening up their cameras and sharing. But for anybody who might be out there on any of our Facebook friends, please feel free to join us. Come to the website and you'll find the Zoom link there to join the meeting directly. So thanks. We hope to see you.
And before questions come in, I just wanted to mention that this background behind me is from a few years ago, springtime at Ananda. And you can see the Moksha Mandir cupola between the trees in the very back, just behind me. And the cherry tree there is just dropped a blanket of cherry blossoms. And that's the gate that you see there to go to Moksha Mandir, where Swami resides now. The body of Swami resides now, and he's, of course, infinite. And I have one short story to tell you. I got a really good dose of his infinity when his casket came back from Assisi, and it was sent from there to here. And it was in the Crystal Hermitage living room for a couple of months, and we got to meditate there as much as we wanted. And so the presence from his body is so powerful. Those of you who've been in the Moksha Mandir know that, because he knew that his energy would be felt by even folks not on this path. And you'll see them. They come from springtime with Ananda. No idea. This one little boy came in there, and he just went around from, all those statues. And he said, "What God is that? Who's that? Who's that?" And it turns out he was so into the Greek gods and goddesses that he wanted to know who are all these people in this shrine. So you don't know what it can do for people. It's just amazing, and it'll be a pilgrimage spot for always. And so it's just such a powerful place. And we couldn't go in there for the longest time, but one time I did go in there. It was not long ago, and I came away, and the thought crossed my mind, "Don't leave me there." Meaning I was feeling sad because I had to go and not be in Swami's aura anymore, his remains and the power from his body. But he was saying to me, you don't need to be in here. You can be in here if you just visualize me in your heart and mind. And so that's for all of us, or no matter where we are, we can have Swamiji or Master or Jesus's presence right inside. And so it's just so blessed that way. It's so blessed.
Thank you for having the background there. Many of the people online I can see have been physically there. And so we know what it is like to sit in that Moksha Mandir with Swamiji's body underneath the floor of it. But for those of you who haven't, again, you can hear Swamiji online on the YouTubes through his music. Swami said, "If you want to know me, listen to my music." We all know that. So his power as a disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda, what an example he has been to us as the disciple. And so just tuning into that power. And I'm going to mute myself now and pause and allow someone else to speak. See the chat, or shall I?
Yeah. I can, yeah.
Just came in. Okay.
Okay, good. The one from Mallory, is that how you say the name?
It is Mallory, and she's been with us a long time, and
Oh,
there she is. Yeah.
there she is. Yeah, so tell me about it, about that, and what you think the term and its relationship to jnana yoga. So explain to me, like, you came close to Queen Victoria and wanted him to be her moksha, her freedom. So it's interesting. This came to my reality through a movie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's jnana yoga. The path of wisdom is just, it's not a contrary. It's all one, really. You know, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, and you know, it's all one. And so, what do you think? I'll pose the question to you. Um, uh, if it's, are you there?
Yeah. So the Indian man said, I can't be that for you, because it sounded like it meant guru to him,
Oh,
but she wanted him to. So
Hmm.
he kept serving her, and he taught her a lot. He
Uh.
taught her, he even taught her to write Hindi, you know, the language, and everybody in the court was very upset about it. Of course, her family was very upset and everything. So it was a really neat movie, really. She wouldn't give up the friendship.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that movie well. It was very impactful, you know, about how
Yeah.
they were close friends, and no one could dispel that, even though his family, when she passed, they kicked him out. You know, he went
Yeah.
back to India, all of that. You know, it just proves that the friendship and the love will never die, will never, never, never die, because the kindness and the, you know, and that it's just, what is the name of the movie, Melly? What, I forgot.
I don't remember his name, so I'm not.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
was his name was the first word in the title.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but
Yeah. Hi, Hugh. It's nice to see you here. Hi, Hugh's asking the name of the movie. My husband will know because he and I saw it together. So
okay.
I'll tell Supriya. I'll find out what, unless you find out first.
But I looked up Jnana Yoga and they related it to Muksha. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, they're all, yeah, each one of them of the paths of yoga are related to you know, to self-realization. And so meaning that that's the goal. And then wisdom, you know, was saying in the reading that the wisdom is a harder path, because it's not, there's no personal relationship, you know, with the quitting some for some. There's no the personal aspect of God, but the involved. But for some people, you can have everything. You can be a bhakti yoga, you can be a jnana yogi, you can have all of those balanced within you. And that's what I think, and the movie, like you said, portrayed that. It's like, you know, he couldn't be her spiritual, he could be a mentor, I guess you would say, but not a guru, you know, or freedom. She was asking, like you said, for spiritual freedom, and that wasn't possible from him, you know, because of his humility. Remember how humble he was, and his,
yes.
and then his devotions and so on. I don't know how much true to life that story was. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
What they put in, but it was a tremendous movie to see that.
Yeah, they really loved each other.
Oh, Victoria and Abdul. Yeah, that's it probably. Yeah, Abdul was.
Oh, I think it was Abdul was the first word. I don't know, but anyway.
And maybe it was Abdul and the Queen. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll find out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maitri. Oh, the lights flickered here. I was telling Supriya that we might have a power outage here because the winds are very high. And thank you all, by the way, for praying for the village and for the rains, because we do have significant rain. I believe the fire season is over, and that makes us a big sigh of relief. There's so much moisture around here that it's not going to come back this year, because the fires were so very close. I mean, really close, 10 miles away. And they would get them, those crews would get them out right away. And so it was phenomenal, actually. But we stayed ready, and talk about being awake and ready all the time. You just have to be awake and ready all the time. And I remember, I invite more questions, but I'll just tell another quick story until one comes in. I was part of one evacuation from the village, and that was 3 years ago, I think. And what you do is you take those bags you have left out in your house and you just put them in the car, and the cat's in the car. You know, I've got the cat and I've got the bags, and you walk out the house and you have to say, I might never go back there. And not a village, I don't know. You just have to walk out. And it was a freeing feeling. But then the good part about the story is we never had to go. They did evacuate our houses down by the road. I mean, it's the first row of houses from the road, from Tyler Foot Road, and that's where the fire was expected to come up, and it never did. And so we spent the night at Masters Market parking lot, and we had to honor you have to honor the firemen. It's Cal Fire. It's not your local fire people. It's Cal Fire that issues the official order, get out, and you have to do it immediately. You can't wait. And so we didn't. And then so we did, we'll go down to Masters Market because we were ready to go. If they said, okay, the whole village has to go, but we didn't have to. But anyway, we did spend the night in the car. We have a RAV4. And so Palika and I and the cat slept comfortably in the car for one night. Yes, new treasures are coming out every month. There's a new treasures talk, and they're still unbelievably from the archives. I had needed to count them up. I want to tell you a sweet story about treasures now. Good news, really. A donor stepped forward and said, I've been saying for years, we have hundreds of reel-to-reels and cassettes that still haven't been digitized. And that's the answer to your question, Victoria. There's like hundreds still that we haven't issued because we didn't have the money to do that. The donor said, I wrote this big spreadsheet up and expressed what's there. It's hundreds of talks, and they said, we'll fund it. That's it. And I said, at the end, I said, I feel like the horse that can see the barn. I said, and I'm not going to trot. I'm going to run, and we're going to get all, so, I get tears in my eyes when I can say it, is that we're going to digitize them all. Yeah. And so there they go. And yeah, wow. Yeah. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing, wonderful place to be. And we have lots of young people who can help, and we have people outside you have to, the reel-to-reel tapes we can't deal with, but we'll be sending those out, and some of the cassettes too, but we'll be having helpers along the way, and it's going to be a great journey. Yeah. So yeah, thank you. Thanks for your support.
Hi, Krishna. I'm Mark. I wanted to say thank you for that story about Nayaswami Maria. She was here in Dallas. It was she and Devarshi came just shortly before her cancer reasserted itself, and she passed shortly after. And so I wish I'd recorded it. I still remember vividly the talk that she gave at that Sunday service was so inspired. And I can really relate to the whole Beatles thing too. That was great. Because Let It Be, I think, is one of my favorite all-time songs, and I think that's really a Divine Mother song. And so my question kind of relates to that. You said something about how if we're feeling like we have to go out and do something, that kind of chases away the divine presence or something. But at the same time, we're often told that we have to put energy out to invite that energy to us. So I'm wondering how you achieve that balance between putting energy out and then giving it to God.
Yeah, that is the eternal question, isn't it? It's like, when do you feel it? I think more, don't you think it's more of a feeling than anything else? It's like when you feel like you've done what you could do, and you're just there with, that energy. And then that's where prayer would come in and say, what would you have me do? What would you have me do with my energy? Because we tend, like I had a moment with it, like Rajasic energy. We started to clean the house and, get the closet and everything. And I just felt like I was just sort of driven, like to do it, get that stuff out of there. This stuff stays, that stuff goes, and I was just feeling like, I just felt so like, what's next kind of thing. Like you're saying, what is next? And so, you just, I think, just relax, I think is the way to do that. And then say, well, I know you're have another dialogue like Swami often did, have another dialogue with Divine Mother and say, look, I've got lots of energy here. How are we doing? That's a question you could have. How are you doing? What would you like me to do next? And then that beckons back to Swamiji's very, very, very personal relationship with God. And so I think we can, we'll just take our inspiration and keep drawing on it like a siphon almost, just take another drink of the reservoir of water and say, what would you like? I think, and then turning it a little bit to God. Does that answer it, Tom?
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I just wanted to say something. Hello there. I just to make sure that everybody knows that we do have our own Treasures gathering, as you know, and it's on Tuesdays at 11:30. Mike is the one that sort of anchors that, and it's a wonderful discussion each week when we have it. It's very deep. The satsang is very deep, and it's just been great to use those talks as a springboard to help us all go deeper in these teachings. So
yeah, isn't it interesting how it's kind of automatic, isn't it? I find that
yes.
the questions just start coming like based on what he said moves us inside. And then, we all know the Treasures talks are eternal because he's like talking to you like now, but he was saying it in 1982 or whatever. And I'm so glad that's profound for you all because it's important to keep his example flowing through the threads of this path of our work, basically, so that it doesn't get forgotten, because his example is so palpable and so powerful. Thank you so much for doing that. And don't you think it's longevity? I find that why are 20 or 30 people coming? It's just because they know that it's good. They know that this is a good thing and that they can draw. It's like again the divine siphon. Where are you? What well are you going to drink from? And here we are. Thank you for doing the Treasures, Mike. That's just fabulous. And for all of you, thanks for contributing. When we show up, other people are magnetized to show up. That's just the rule. I don't know how it works, but that's the rule.
Hi, Krishna.
Hi, Mike. Is that you, Mike?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, is this you?
Oh, it's Hugh. Oh, yeah. Hi, Hugh.
I say hello. It's nice. I hadn't seen you since the 50th when I met you, and
yeah.
And then we shared some emails. But I became a Kriya in 2006 and in Dallas. But I really through Master, I read the AY and I was really into teachings and all that, and Oriental philosophy, and seeing Swamiji there. Oh, that's nice. I just didn't feel anything. I was just so focused on Master. I didn't know the power of Swamiji. Until 2014, when I developed an immune disorder, an autoimmune disorder, and I was pretty close to going to the astral world. I lost like 60, 80 pounds in two months. They did all kinds of tests on me. No, they could not figure out what was going on. They didn't know it was an autoimmune. They thought everything else. But what I started to do is I had these CDs from Ananda Dallas, and I had all this time waiting to go into the appointments, waiting to, having no energy to do anything else. So I started putting on Treasures Along the Path. And oh my gosh, I just can't explain it. It just hit me in a heart level. Yeah. And his voice when he was young has a deep, it resounded. His laughter was so incredible. I don't even know what tone, baritone or something like, and you could just feel it in your heart. And so I spent that summer just listening to all these talks, And that's when I came close to Swamiji and just really touching your heart. And then the ultimate blessing was then being part of the Living Discipleship program, where they opened up Swamiji's apartment to us, you know, I felt the point where I have the closest relationship with Swamiji is our love for Anandamayi Ma. And I found out like years later, before I went to Living Discipleship, how close he was. And he went to India, and then I had that book. I read the book with the picture of him prana to Anandamayi Ma. And I didn't feel as much in the mandir, even though there was a palpable energy there meditating. But inside his apartment, oh my gosh, he was all over that. He's all over there. You could feel it in your heart, and you could see him. There was darshan right before you enter his bedroom on the right side. And that's where I meditated the whole time I was there. It was really powerful. I just can't explain in words. But I just wanted to share that with you because I thought you appreciated it. And thank you for that picture. It just takes me back, walking right there along, going down the steps and into the gate, you know, into the Moksha Mandir in his apartment. So thank you for bringing that and for sharing your energy with us.
Thank you. Thank you. That would be beautiful, Hugh, if you felt like writing that up. That would be a beautiful thing to write up for the website, if you feel to do it. Yeah. I bet you're a good storyteller. I mean, in writing.
Then think about it. I will.
Yeah. Yeah. And send it to me. I would love to.
I work as a teacher, so I have to be.
Yeah. That would be great. And then we can always edit this video too and have you a little snippet from you or any of you, if you don't mind. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. Yeah. That would be great. Yeah. Thanks.
So anybody else? We're having a pause.
Yeah, and I see names that Heather and David and Randy and Eric and I don't know, Diana, Janet. That's a nice name.
Dinah has been online with us often for many weeks. Yeah, I don't want to say anything about anybody because we try to, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
But welcome.
If you feel like saying anything or coming on camera, that would be lovely, you know.
Yeah, each of anyone here, just open your camera or at least unmute yourself if you have something to say or comment or a question for Krishna. You know, she's been on this path a darn long time. How many years, Krishna ji? 40, 50?
No, 88, 90, let's see.
88 years?
No, 1988 I came. So that's, I'm not very good at math, but that's 1988 is when I came. Yeah, on this path. But I did, before this, I did Zen and other, and Vedanta also for 10 years. For 20 years, I did other paths, 25 or 30 actually, yeah.
So here's I love this question, and he'll be okay if I say this is from David Cotton, and we haven't gotten to see much during the pandemic, and before the pandemic he was fairly new to this path, but I know he meditates. We stay in touch a lot, and his question is, Krishna, how did you learn to focus during meditation?
Well, I think it's been a progression. And it's definitely been a progression, and I wouldn't say I can do it yet. It's, you know, I will answer you rightly though by saying my journey began with Zen, and actually that taught me a lot about discipline, because you know they hit you with a stick if you're not if you're not concentrating. It's called a kwasaku. But you, in some zendos, you ask for it. You're sitting there and you're admitting you're not concentrating by going like this, make a gasho. And so when the monitor comes by, you know, the monitor for meditation comes by, he's got his stick. And if you're like this, he knows he can hit you on the flesh part of your shoulders. And it makes a horrendous sound, you know, whack. And so that was the start of my meditative experience, where there's nothing, there really to be accountable for other than, you should be concentrating. But now, see, devotion, I was saying to myself during Zen and the Buddhism experience, where's the devotion? And that's what Swamiji is saying too, but to pray with the heart is the important thing. And I think that's where I can come back to it and say honestly that's where I can have that honest and frank conversation with God, saying nothing's happening here. Like there's nothing's going on, nothing's happening for me, like that. And then just say it like a friend. It's like, what can you do about it? Or and one time I did that in Moksha Mandir. I was in a seclusion and I was in there, and it was like I'd actually had, and this tells you how, silly we can be about these things sometimes. A couple of the days, or maybe it was the day previous or this day, 2 days away, I had a really profound experience of Swamiji and of Master. Okay, I had it. So I went in Moksha Mandir that day expecting something, didn't I? I did. I expected something like that to happen, a spiritual experience. And so I sat there and I couldn't concentrate. I could not concentrate for the dickens. And then I just looking at my watch saying, I could have an early lunch, should I go home? But then I had the presence of mind by God's grace. It wasn't my mind that asked the question, but it's God's grace within me that unlocked my heart to say finally, what should I do? Okay, I'm asking the question of Swamiji, what should I do? And you know what the answer was? Sit there and try. Sit there and try. So my question, answer is dual. I can sit there and try. And I can't say anything grand came of it. But I think the answer to your question is we can sit there and try and focus. You want to be focused. And then Jyotish is very, very keen on this. And if you go on YouTube, you can look up videos of Jyotish, different talks, and it might not say that in the title, focused meditation or anything like that. But if you just surf a little bit and listen to some of his things and some of his talks and Sunday services and such, you'll find a lot, I think, about how to really, really turn around and focus your mind. And it's a formidable thing. And you're asking a very good question. You're more than halfway there to the answer. You want to be focused in your meditation. And then, one thing I can say, Jyotish said this. He, actually here he was saying in the talk by Swamiji's on humor, interesting, how to focus your mind. And he said, at the end of any thought, okay, there's it's called a resting place. And if you can, at that resting place, before the mind goes spurt onto another thought, if you can turn it, and then go back to Om Guru, or use your mantra. Yogananda said the mantra for this path is Om Guru, Om Guru, Om Guru. Go back to a mantra. Go back to the breath. Go back to anything, technique, anything, to get your mind off of going on and on and on and on. So that's another good technique. And Jyotish was saying, let's try to coming up New Year, let's really try to focus on reining your mind in instead of letting it go.
That's beautiful. I love when people that we ask who have been on the path longer than us, whether it's been 28 years, 35 years or something, there's more people on Ananda who's been here. And we ask this question in different forms, what David just asked. Thank you, David, for asking it. And always do we hear a similar answer, yes, come back to the breath. Yes, come back to the mantra and all this stuff. But also it's like even letting go of the expectation, even, to get something out of meditation. And I love it. I hear it again and again, which helps me, so that, because my mind does the same thing on different days, not to have the expectation that this is going to feel good or this is going to happen, but to know and trust that because Master told us, it is benefiting us no matter what goes on. And I love it, what you just said, and so many other long experienced meditators have said to us. Just keep doing it. Practice, just do it. And off the self-offering word that you said before. Offer if it feels yucky. Offer if it feels wonderful. And just keep doing it. I just love it. You know, that's the Nike quote.
What is it?
I quote Nike. Now, y'all know what the Nike quote is. Your mind's pulling it up. In almost every class I teach about beginning meditation, just do it.
Just do it.
That's the Nike quote, that, and everybody laughs. But yeah, 25 years later, people are going to go, oh, yeah, she said just do it. Because it is raising our consciousness. Yeah.
Well, and also I just love the fact that science supports it. So they've done there's lots of research that says even when your mind is, you don't have that perfect control that you think you have to have in order to be a meditator, it still has much benefit to us on many, many different levels.
You know, something was said during the Kriya initiation. I think it was during the Kriya initiation that we just did with Riemann and Padma. And I'm sure I've probably heard it before, but you know how it is. Sometimes you hear something and you go, wow, I've never heard that before. But anyway, she was talking about bringing the mind back when it starts to wander. And the emphasis that she put on as though it never wandered away in the first place. And I think for me, it was an important distinction, because it's kind of like you're not going, I did it again. You're not getting into self-recrimination. You're just bringing the mind back. And it's interesting what you said about Jyotish, saying that there's kind of this pause after a thought where that's the point to bring the mind back. Because I do find for myself that when my mind wanders, there's a point that just feels natural to bring it back. And often when I do that, I feel like I go to another level, that I've gone deeper. And I certainly don't recommend saying just let your mind go off, but it does seem somehow that, okay, that energy is spent, and now I can take this opportunity to press the down button and go deeper.
Go deeper.
Yeah, button. Yeah, well, deeper, higher, whatever.
Infinity, above, below, left, right, front, and back. Yeah.
Exactly.
Infinity.
Forward, behind.
Yeah. Love it. Love it.
Well, great souls. Gosh, it's 12:45. How time did fly this morning.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Krishna. If anyone